Each year, the remains of individuals from prior conflicts get full military honors at the Joint POW-MIA Accounting Command in Hawaii. JPAC is one element of a worldwide DoD commitment to bring every missing service member back home. There are officially well over 73,000 unaccounted for from World War II, just under 8,000 from Korea, and nearly 1,700 from Vietnam. In the last year, 98 service members have been accounted for.
Their mission is to pursue the fullest possible accounting.
The mission merits a large display at the Pentagon. The mission is complex. It involves diplomatic negotiation and archaeological excavation. It involves sophisticated DNA laboratory analysis and involves units from every service. Lieutenant Colonel Eric Wolf, now with the Joint Staff at the Pentagon, contacted families of the missing while serving with the Army's past conflicts repatriation team.
It's a whole symphony of effort to assist this one goal, is to bring their service member home. Every person is a person, it's not a number. It's every person has a story, every family member is a loved one.
Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta is a dog person. His Irish setter Bravo was certainly excited to meet with a group of service dogs and a group of trainers and wounded warriors from the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center.
I worked in a trauma facility there, and when I came back, I noticed how much the dogs helped me with my transition back home, and I really just wanted to do something to further that and help other people. So that's where I got involved with these guys.
I really appreciate your service and your sacrifice, and I appreciate the effort to, to be able to have a dog help someone be able to lead a fuller life. I mean, in many ways, that's what Bravo does for me. In some very tough jobs that I've been in, having the company of Bravo and having him around, having him provide emotional support, and having him just be there has always been just great for me and for my wife.
Sergeant Brian Bradley, injured in Afghanistan after 3 deployments to Iraq, agrees about the emotional support.
You hear about all the soldiers, they go back to rooms, they're alone, or they just play video games all day, but still there's that PTSD there. There's that sense you're alone. I mean, even if you're married, you still feel alone. Because, family looks at you, different after you get wounded and stuff. Whether it's good or bad, it's still different. The dogs, they don't discriminate that way. They look at you as a person, they come up with you as a person. They can sense hurt, and they can sense pride in you.
During that period, I would give instructions or orders and so forth, but all the other NCOs and even the troopers would look at Wagner to see is this okay or not. He was clearly in charge of the platoon. The fighting all took place right out here in this area, and they were all isolated outposts. Sometimes they'd be overrun. We'd overrun theirs, they would overrun ours.
Lieutenant Trainer soon earned his spurs. He picked a spot from which to support another platoon's planned attack.
I said, looks pretty good to me, Wagner. How's it look to you? And he didn't even look at me. He just kind of stared off and said, I don't know, Lieutenant, you're the platoon leader. And right then and there, I knew he had passed the command to me.
We flew a fingertip formation, a leader and a wingman, an element leader and a wingman. We flew in flights of 4. We flew from Kimpo north past the 38th parallel. After about 30 minutes flying north, we would drop our wing drop tanks and increase our speed and go into the area they call MiG Alley. This was along south of the Yalu River. The MiGs would usually come out of not North Korea, but come out of communist China across the Yalu River.
During many missions, they wouldn't spot an enemy plane.
Except one day, the MiGs turned out to be really MiGs. I was number 4 in a flight, and a MiG-15 that was being flown by a guy that was obviously superior to me in skill latched onto me. He was so close I could hear the sound of his guns as he fired. The reason that I'm here talking to you today is that my element leader, Gene Rogge, came in behind that MiG, and while the MiG was shooting at me, Gene Rogge was pouring bullets into him and shot him down. Up till that point, I had no real understanding of what it meant to have some guy really try to kill you.
My name is Bob Ward. I'm a photographer to the Office of the Secretary of Defense, which means that I cover both the Secretary and the Deputy.
To call Bob Ward a veteran photographer would be an understatement.
I started here at the Pentagon in 1974 with James Schlesinger. He was replaced by the young Secretary Rumsfeld. He was the youngest secretary to serve. I think he was 43, I think, when he came into office here. It was followed by Harold Brown, Caspar Weinberger, Frank Carlucci, Dick Cheney, Les Aspin, William Perry, William Cohen. Donald Rumsfeld came back again. Robert Gates followed him, and Leon Panetta, our current secretary. I do countless award ceremonies. I just stuck these in there because it's just typical of the regular things that we do on a daily basis. Our job here is to document the activities of the Secretary and Deputy Secretary of Defense. Virtually everything they do that might have some historic significance is things that we cover.
The toughest and easiest secretaries to photograph?
Robert Gates was a very serious man. He certainly will go down in history as being one of the finest Secretaries of Defense. He was a little difficult to photograph because he rarely gestured and he didn't smile a lot. He had a wonderful smile, but he just didn't show it very often. The easiest, on the other hand, to photograph was Donald Rumsfeld. The man was almost constantly on, it seemed like. He had wonderful expressions, he gestured constantly.
Does the lawyer know that I've shot 50 cal?
Jones, how many mics?
Larry wasn't allowed to shoot anything besides video at the Pentagon Force Protection Range. He did get a behind-the-scenes briefing. Wherever he went, he launched barbs and took pictures with the staff.
I was going to wear that same top.
You were? You can have mine.
Well, if we're swapping, let's swap.
The Radiological Defense Team right here. The RAD Defense Team.
You're done.
What camera are we on here? 01?
1005.
Yeah, let me get one up.
The Pentagon police had several surprises in store for Larry and his crew. First, they booted his car after he parked in the morning, then watched him discover the ticket. They watched him all day at the building's Emergency Operations Center. Later, he got to be a dispatcher for a few minutes.
The dispatcher here that's over me would like you to head over to a convenience store and grab us some milk and some cinnamon.
All in all, a long and educational day.
It's cool seeing them in there, seeing them at their best, and it makes you proud as an American, knowing that we have the greatest military in the world, and then to get behind it and see the guts of it and watch them work makes you even prouder. It's awesome. I mean, it was just a good time.
He even found time for a plug for the Pentagon channel.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and you're getting her done watching the Pentagon channel. And if you're not, you're a dadgum communist.
Of course, that's Larry's personal opinion and does not reflect the official position of the Pentagon Channel. Staff Sergeant Deon Moses, Pentagon Channel News.
Get her done.